I'd been after Jake for 10 solid years. He always played it cool, all put together, and totally unfazed. Then, on our wedding night, I somehow ended up in a coma. But in my dreams, he's holding on to me like I'm his lifeline, his voice trembling. "My wife," he whispers, "we promised forever. You're not going anywhere." I heard Jake's high school sweetheart was coming back from overseas. My brain went into overdrive, and I called a family emergency meeting. The more brains, the better chance someone could figure out how to get Jake to finally commit and make it legit. At the meeting, my mom and dad were practically yelling at each other. Mom thought we should throw money at him, Dad wanted to, persuade him at night. I blinked, totally confused. Persuade how, exactly? My grandpa, always the baller, couldn't take it anymore. He slapped a check for $5,000 onto the table, right in front of me. I got the picture immediately. I grabbed the check and went looking for Jake, well, Jake's stand-in. Seriously, I've been chasing Jake since middle school, all the way through college. It's been a decade-long mission, and I've tried everything. I even did the whole wet t-shirt thing at the pool this summer. But Jake just stood there, cool as a cucumber, not even a flicker of emotion. Like he was a Greek god, untouchable. That's when I hit peak desperation. I figured it was finally over, 10 years of pining, down the drain. Then, like fate or something, I found a guy working at a club that my friend invests in. This guy looked like Jake from the side, like 70% Jake. It was wild. This guy had the total opposite personality of Mr. Iceman Jake. For $200, he'd serenade me with love songs. $500 would get me a full-on roleplay session. And $1,000? Let's just say it came with all the bells and whistles, the works, the full VIP treatment. It was like discovering the Holy Grail. Whenever I was down, I'd grab my allowance and go drop some serious cash on this Jake double. It was like an addiction. Just seeing that Jake-like profile was enough to let me sleep soundly. But good things don't last. My funds dried up in under a month. I hadn't dared go back and see little Jake in forever. Then my grandpa saved the day with that check, which was supposed to lure Jake into marriage, ha ha ha. Jake wouldn't be moved by cash. The man treated money like dirt. I could throw $1 million at him, and if he wasn't into me, he wouldn't be into me. I'm not dumb. That money is going straight to little Jake. Night fell. The parking lot of the Vault Club was packed with fancy cars. This morning, when I heard Jake's old flame was coming back, I flipped out. I had the family meeting and organized a girls' night out, just in case. As soon as I hit our booth, my bestie, Chloe, grabs my shoulders, excited. "Girl, I have news. You're getting played." I blinked, confused. I don't even have a boyfriend. How could I be getting played? My other friend, Maya, gave me a look, all-knowing, and pointed to the booth across from us, towards the left. And there he was, Jake, right in front of me. And next to him was her. They were sharing a drink, like in some cheesy romance movie. And that woman? I'd recognize her anywhere. It was Jake's old high school crush, his untouchable dream girl, Sarah. She was back. And now, the air was sucked out of my lungs. I knew it was over. I was done. Every smile, every shared glance, was like a knife to my heart, each one stinging more than the last. Chloe looked at me with pity in her eyes. "Don't be sad, sweetie. Jake's a deadbeat who strings you along. You deserve better." Maya waved her hands in a dramatic fashion. "Yo, if you promise not to cry, I got you. I'm bringing the good times." I looked at them both, my eyes ready to start crying. Then Maya leaned over and whispered with a smirk. "Tonight, every man in this club is yours." Okay, that worked. My tears instantly dried up. Chloe's eyes lit up. "Wow, Maya! You know the good stuff. The guys at this club are seriously hot." I'm just excited to watch. I almost cracked a smile, pretending like I was unaffected, then picked up my glass of wine and took a massive gulp. You guys wait here, I just gotta go to the bathroom. Maybe it was that last swig, but as I was heading to the bathroom, I saw little Jake. He looked different tonight. Just a simple white shirt, sleeveless vest. Sleeves rolled up, revealing strong and nice wrists. Top 2 buttons undone, shoulders broad, legs long. Head down, couldn't see his face, but in the soft light, his profile looked even more like Jake. With the smoke swirling around him, he had that same cold, aloof vibe. I forced myself to walk over, and tried to act like a sane human being. Hey, don't smoke. It's bad for you. 11, that's his number at the club, it's how I usually called him. He looked at me, didn't say anything. Little Jake had been acting weird all night. Usually, when he saw me, he'd get all smiley and say, "Hi, miss." Not like this, all detached and distant. I reached over and tapped his shoulder, trying to be gentle but firm. 11, what's up with you tonight? You're not working, and now you're hiding here, puffing away? The manager finds out, your paycheck is gonna take a hit. I was just trying to be nice, but he just looked at me like he was listening to something else, and then took another drag from his cigarette. He was probably ignoring me because I hadn't been around lately, just because he was being petty. So I softened my tone. Hey, listen, I have some good news. From now on, you don't have to pretend to be Jake anymore, okay? Good, right? The guy blinked, like he didn't understand. What? I thought he was asking why. I shrugged. Because I'm done with him. The second the words left my mouth, huge hands covered my eyes. Light disappeared, and he cornered me against the wall, kissing me like his life depended on it. His breath was like winter. But this guy was not 11. I tried to squirm and get away. I stuttered, "You are not 11. Who are you?" The man smirked, his voice low and seductive. "You want to play Jake, honey? I'll play Jake." My alarm bells were screaming at me. The sudden danger made me open my mouth and bite his lip as hard as I could. The taste of blood filled my mouth. My surprise attack caused him to groan in pain. That deep voice, like a podcast host I'd only ever heard on my headphones. But even through my attack, he still didn't let go, he just kissed me with more force. I had enough. I stomped on his foot with my heel, as hard as I could. That got me out of his grasp. But before I could get a clear look at his face, a tie fell from the sky and landed on my eyes, at just the right moment before the light hit it. It was tied so tight, I was completely blind. Not only that, he tied a damn knot in the back. I couldn't break free, I couldn't even begin to figure out who he was. "Who the hell are you? I'm calling the cops. You're assaulting me." I was so mad, my ears were burning. I was scrambling to get the tie off, but it was no use. Maybe I looked pathetic. The man laughed, the sound was low and throaty. "Little girl, if I don't want you to know who I am, there's no way you'll figure it out. And maybe it's better you don't." He lowered his voice, with all the loud club music. So it was impossible to know who he was just by the sound of his voice. And his scent was mixed with the smell of alcohol. This little corner wasn't in the security camera's view. If he turned around and walked out, I'd never find him. So, I had to think fast. I reached out, grabbed onto the fabric of his shirt. I smiled, feeling like I had the upper hand. "You're a creep. When I call the cops, you're going to jail." No answer. But I knew he was right in front of me. "Okay, see you in court." And then, a light bulb went off in my head. I remembered that Jake-like face. I gulped. I was probably drunk. "You know," I said, testing the waters, "if you don't want me to call the cops, there's a way out." "Oh yeah?" I went for it. You said you'd play Jake, right? And you look enough like him. So, how about you pretend to be Jake, and come home with me to meet my parents? I added, quick, it's just once. Just try to be believable. I thought it was never gonna work out between me and the real Jake, so maybe I can bring a fake Jake home to get my parents off my back. Give me a reason. It's simple. My parents are obsessed with Jake, they want me to marry him. And you? Didn't you hear? I'm done with him. I tried to sound casual, but a wave of sadness hit me. It was more than that, I loved Jake for so many years. My parents thought I had a chance with Jake, so they had grown to like him. I just didn't expect it to crash down like this, after 10 years of chasing him. Silence filled the space. He didn't answer. Even the music seemed to fade away. I was lost in my thoughts, not even noticing how he was feeling. Time. His voice was kind of rough, more of a whisper now. He sounded weird. But I was too drunk to really think about it. How about 10 a.m. in 3 days? Be at the back of the Gold and Glory apartments. I'll come get you. Okay. Deal? Yeah. And try to dress down, okay? Nothing like tonight. Explain that one. I made something up. I don't want my mom to get too excited. Or, I didn't want myself to get too excited. When I saw him at the hall, his clothes were expensive, he was so calm, and it really looked like Jake, that it made it really hard to let him go. I continued, now that we have a deal, can you take this tie off? More silence. Then he was gone. My hands had already let go of his shirt. If my eyes weren't covered by the tie, I would probably think this was all just a dream. Like the last 10 years, loud but unreal. The alcohol was warming up my face, and making my eyes red. If Chloe hadn't found me, I would have been standing there for even longer. Girl, you're on fire. You went to the bathroom and got yourself a date? Chloe winked at me. I blushed, hitting her on the arm. Shut up. Okay, no need to get violent, I'm not gonna leave you blind. 3 minutes later, the tie was finally gone. It was a solid black tie. No designs or anything. Like a reminder of who it belonged to. But other than that, I couldn't make out any clues. Yo, you wanna stare at that tie, or get back to the booth? Maya has a surprise for you. The surprise? I remembered. I shoved the tie in my pocket, grabbed Chloe's hand, and dragged her to the booth. But my bestie, Maya, seemed to have hit the lottery. She called over 20 of the male celebrities in this club. When she saw me, she waved, grinning. Come on, girl. Take your pick. I saw all of the guys, all the muscles, and for a second I thought I was about to get eaten. Maya made her gesture. All the guys looked at me at the same time. Including the guys on the other tables, it was maybe 30 eyes. I just wanted to disappear. Chloe pushed me forward. Come on, get rid of the Jake disease. There are so many guys out there. It's your turn to find a guy, we went through all of this for you. She said it, and I just couldn't refuse. So, I stood and started to look at them. I wasn't picking. I was trying to see if I could see 11, or that guy from the hall. No luck. I looked 2 rounds around, they were gone. I glared at Maya. Maya, did you call every single guy here? Maya smiled, like she understood everything, and grabbed her phone. She called the manager. He was happy that we called and said that in 3 minutes, all of the guys were going to be there, including 11 who had left half an hour ago. While we were waiting, we picked up our drinks. They toasted and said I was going to have the best date of my life. My night was never going to be that good. After 3 minutes, the guys weren't there, and the other guys went and disappeared. Maya was shocked, she didn't know what to say. Maya, just call the manager. She did, and they answered right away. Miss, we are so sorry. Our boss came and told us that we have a surprise inspection starting tonight. All of the male celebs are going on vacation. You don't have to pay them for coming over, and your booth tonight is on us. We didn't know what to say. Maya hung up the phone. Let's just stop thinking about this. Let's drink and have some fun. Tonight is gonna be a good night. Chloe made the first move, lifting her drink. Maya and I followed her. The night started to feel long. The next day, I was hungover and slept through the entire day. 3 days later, I woke up and my mom was standing in front of me. What do you think you're doing? Sleeping all day. Do you think this is gonna get Jake to like you? I saw that Sarah at the mall this morning. She's graceful and classy. Get up and start doing something. I rolled over. Mom, it's over. He doesn't like girls like me. You can't know if you don't try. Do you have another guy or something? Me. What? You can't deny it? Your dad saw that tie you brought home. He said it's a limited edition, and he had to get someone to buy it overseas. And he couldn't. Limited? I was up in a second. Yeah. He said if the tie wasn't so specific, he'd wear it to work. My mom shook her head. I don't know what I did to make you like this. I'm not trying to make fun of you, but 10 years, you can't get one boyfriend. She got me. Who said I can't? Getting Jake to like me? It's easy. He said he's coming to meet you tomorrow. My mom's jaw dropped, and I felt a little evil. But I never thought. The next second, my door opened. And there was the face I'd been dreaming about. He was wearing a mask, but those eyes, they were always the same. It was Jake. And my dad was behind him. I was done. I wanted to disappear. I said that so loudly. Jake was right there, and I know he could hear everything. I had no idea when he got to the door. I tried to ask my dad to help me. But my mom talked first. So, Jake, are you here to see my girl? She had believed me, and was looking at Jake, super happy. I was ashamed and blushed. Mom, why are you asking him that? I tried to stop her, but Jake nodded and said yes. Then he looked at me. I came here to see you. Oh, see me? I was so confused. I tried to look at my dad for help. But then my mom pushed my dad out of the room. She closed the door and gave me a thumbs up. She wanted me to get together with Jake. But I didn't want him. So I tried to be like Jake, cool and collected. What do you want? Yeah. Jake nodded and his eyes changed. I was going to be cool too. Say it. My grandpa's 80th birthday is in 3 days. I heard you have a porcelain bottle you bought overseas. I'd like to buy it back from you, for a good price. Oh, I see. The bottle. I had bought it 3 years ago. I had heard Jake's grandpa liked them, so I went overseas and spent all of my savings to get it at an auction. I was thinking if I got married to Jake, I'd give it to Grandpa Jake. But it wouldn't be a gift, it would only ever be an excuse for Jake to talk to me. I said, I'm so sorry, that bottle is part of my dowry, I'm not selling it. Jake, I think your girlfriend, Sarah, is back from overseas. I heard she has a lot of collectibles. Ask her to buy it. And if I don't? Jake's eyes got intense and scary. I held onto my blanket. My bottle was under my bed. What? Are you gonna steal it? Miss, that's not what I mean. Jake paused, then said, there are a lot of bottles out there, but he only likes yours. It's like how there are a lot of people, but you only want to be with one person. Jake was acting weird. The mask, the reason for coming, everything was weird. His left pinky was moving a lot. He always does that when he's nervous. I heard that when I was at dinner with one of Jake's friends. What is he nervous about? And miss, I don't have a girlfriend. You got the wrong idea. Oh, really? I looked at him. He did not. He was with Sarah, wasn't he? Maybe Jake looked calm and classy on the outside, but he's actually a player? I looked at him in shock. What? I'm not with her, are you upset? Was I upset? Jake sounded down. Upset? What is he upset about? I didn't want to think about it, so I said. No, I'm fine. Oh, so you're happy? I looked up, and his eyes were smiling. He was laughing at me. Being with Jake like this was hard. I said, I'll be honest. I don't want to lie. The bottle, it's a part of my dowry. No money is good enough. I won't sell it. While I was talking, he was tapping on the table. But he didn't take his eyes off me. I felt like he knew he was going to get it. But I wouldn't let it happen. I said, Jake, if you can get something more important to trade for this, then I'll think about it. Jake furrowed his brow, like he was mad. What do you want? I winked. You know. I thought because he said that he wanted to trade. But he just turned around, opened the door, and left. That was weird, I said. He turned his head one last time. And those eyes, they were like a hook. But they were deep, and I didn't know what he was feeling. When I was ready to go downstairs, Jake was already gone. My parents said he left really fast, and didn't even stay for lunch. I nodded, and then I sat on the couch. My mom came right over. So, what happened? What did he say? I was going to explain when she said, I knew him since you were in middle school. He did great at the open houses. And his family is perfect for you. Especially that face. It's perfect. I hope my grandkids aren't like you. My mom was the best. Mom, you can't be like that. He's not gonna want me. My mom got up. What? Are you saying he has a problem? He isn't gonna get me any grandkids? That's why he left after half an hour. I understand. I rolled my eyes. Mom, you're the best. So you don't have any problems? She looked at me with concern. I was so angry. No, I'm saying you are too much. She glared at me. I saw the tie on the balcony. I remembered that kiss in the corner. I made a fist. And I remembered the face that looked just like Jake, and the deal we had for tomorrow. I looked at my mom, smiling. Mom, just you wait. You'll see. 11. The next day, I had been trying to figure out where that tie came from. I was trying to get people to track who bought it. I finally got it together and got to the back of the building at 10. I saw him there, by a tree. And it shocked me. He looked exactly like Jake. Like twins. But I saw Jake that night in the club, and he couldn't have been on the hall in less than half a minute. And the cigarette wasn't new, it was halfway done, I remember that. So the first thing I asked was, You're acting a little too good, don't you think? The man looked at me, acting what? He sounded the same. You're amazing. You sound just like him. He shook his head. You think I'm acting? I was confused, are you not? He didn't say anything, just smiled. I sighed and pointed to my scooter, get on. He didn't complain. His long legs jumped on. Before I started the engine, I said, hold on. And then he wrapped his arms around me. I froze for a second. But he didn't grab me too tight, he was just holding on. And the engine went vroom. I was confused, and then I crashed into his chest. My ear grazed his lip. And I remembered that kiss from before. The wind was blowing on me, making me hot, and his arms were tightening around me. I felt like he wanted to become part of my soul. I shouted, What do you think you're doing? Let me go. I saw him in the mirror, he was serious. You told me to hold on. I said to hold on, not hug me. He smiled. I didn't move. You were the one who moved. You. So mad. I wanted to punch him. But the face in the mirror looked just like Jake. So I stopped. I accelerated on a turn, hoping to scare him. But he didn't react, just held onto me even tighter. His lips pressed on my ear. That was worse than the kiss. We arrived. The man got out, and I rushed to put the scooter in the backyard. I went back to find him, and he was talking to my parents, and they were both smiling. Especially my mom, she seemed to like him a lot. Jake, you look so good in this. I was worried that you were so serious, but you look great. Thank you, Aunt. This man was the best Jake impersonator. He did everything the same, it was crazy. But I didn't know his real name, so I just called him Jake. Mom and Dad, what are you doing? It's hot, come inside. I walked to them. My mom smiled. You didn't tell us. We didn't cook 20 dishes. I smiled. Let's go. My grandpa? Why was he here? I turned white. Jake was Grandpa's old friend's grandson. He was gonna figure it out soon. I went inside, worried. I couldn't understand why everyone was here. My mom touched me. Go, get us some tea. Okay. I didn't want him to get caught. I grabbed some tea and started to act like I was making it. I watched. My grandpa, my parents, were all asking questions. But he was saying everything right. He even talked to my grandpa about Jake's grandpa. And he knew things that only my grandpa knew. What? Did I get the world's best actor? The questioning was ending, and I saw everyone smiling, then I realized something. Wait, what? I asked him to act average. If he acts like this, they're gonna make me marry him. I gave them all tea. I sat next to Jake, and whispered to him. You remember, right? I didn't ask you to act like this. If you do, my parents are going to make me marry you. He looked like he was being polite. Oh, sorry. I can fix it. I was shocked. Are you crazy? You're gonna marry me? I was so loud. Everyone stopped talking. My parents were staring daggers at me. Why would he be here? He's here to marry you, right? I looked at them. No, you got the wrong idea. My grandpa looked sad. What? Didn't you like Jake for 10 years? My mouth was open, and I didn't know what to say. Yes, I loved Jake. But he was with Sarah. And this was not him. And there was no way out. I had an idea. But Grandpa, Jake doesn't like me. It doesn't matter that I like him. He doesn't want to marry me. You can ask him. They looked at the guy. He was drinking tea. He put it down and looked at me. I never said I didn't want to marry you. I stood up. And when I did, I saw it. His hand on his side, that little pinky finger was moving like crazy. He was nervous. I realized it. My finger was shaking. You. Who are you? The man looked at me and didn't say anything. My uncle said, Girl, you brought the tie home, and you're asking us if he's not Jake? Are you messing with us? I was lost. I saw the man, and remembered everything that happened in the last 3 days. And Jake had never been there. So? Are you Jake? He nodded. Yes. I looked at him. What are you doing here? I came to marry you. He grabbed all of the papers he had, and put them in my hand. The first paper I saw was a marriage certificate. My mom took the papers from me. She said, a home certificate, 2 home certificates, 3, 4. A diploma, medical exams, work papers, business paper. We were all quiet. My dad took my marriage certificate. My grandpa patted Jake's shoulder. I like you, Jake. I give you our girl. Jake smiled and said, "Thank you, I promise I won't let you down." I was mad. "Did you even ask me?" My mom said, "What could you say? You took 50 grand from Grandpa to get him." Jake looked shocked, and I blushed. My mom just told him my deepest secret. I was never gonna win against him. "Oh, really? 50? I don't think I didn't want him to say anything else, so I kissed him." "You probably got it." Jake was looking at the marriage certificate. He was going to use this to marry me. My parents started to get suspicious. I winked at Jake, telling him I was okay. They had a deal. Jake turned around and said, "Okay." My grandpa was very happy, and pushed me to him. "Let's do it. You're gonna get married." I was going to tell them not to, but Jake pulled my hand and said yes to everything. "Okay, Grandpa." My grandpa was worried that his daughter's husband was going to leave, so he sent 2 bodyguards with us while we were on the scooter. I was so mad. Then Jake said, "I've been looking all over the house." "Oh." I didn't understand. "I don't have anything that's better than that bottle." He paused and said, "Except for me, so we're here, you don't have to say anything more. I understand." I stopped him and was quiet. What was I doing? Jake traded himself for the bottle. And he had never looked at me. So I was gonna do what he wanted. And be done with it. I signed the papers, and I was married to Jake. I was lost. I never thought I was gonna get married to him. I took a picture of my certificate and sent it to my girls. They all blew up. Chloe and Maya called me over and over. And then Jake just threw a key at me. I'm at 6 Moon Bay Apartments. I looked at him. He was being weird and touched his ears. "I'm just worried your grandpa will ask, and you won't have an answer." Was I really that dumb? This was the dumbest excuse I had ever heard. I was going to argue, but he didn't give me a chance. He said, "I'm going to work now," and left in my bodyguard's car. I was like? My parents heard I was moving in with Jake, and got very happy. They helped me pack and drove me to the door of Moon Bay. If I didn't look so much like my mom when she was younger, I'd think I was adopted. Moon Bay was a big complex. Jake's house was very big, and he could see the river. He wasn't home when I got there. I looked around the house. When I saw that he didn't have any women's stuff, I got happy and unpacked. I was not stupid. I wasn't going to sleep in his room on the first night. I made my bed in the spare room. Night came fast. I was sitting by the window with a glass of red wine. I did that to make the night less stressful. It was almost the Mid-Autumn Festival. The moon was so big. I remembered last year. I was thinking about Jake. He was hurt, and I drove for hours to see him. He took the pills, but didn't come out to see me. That memory brought my mood down. I had just married Jake, and I wanted to know why. I wanted Jake to tell me about him and Sarah. I wanted him to tell me that the guy kissing Sarah wasn't him. And maybe I would get another kiss. My heart was beating faster. I wanted to know when he was going to get home. He was not a good husband. And then I heard the lock. I rushed to the door. And then he was there. And he was still so handsome. Then, he fell into my arms. I didn't know what was happening, and he grabbed my waist. "Girl." He said my name. My heart was beating fast. I wanted to push him off. But he was holding on to me. "Okay. Just once." I closed the door. He was breathing on my neck, and it was tickling me. I asked, "Why are you so drunk?" I didn't drink too much. He looked at me. Was he drunk or not? If he wasn't and was holding me, then I didn't want to think about it. I changed the topic. Do you drink a lot? He put his head on my shoulder. No, I don't. I said, really? Yeah. It's different now. I was confused. Different how? Before, no one was here. Now, you're here. What? My heart was racing, and I was getting hot. Was he flirting? Or was he acting drunk so he could look at me and laugh? I coughed. Go, take a bath. Okay. I felt sad. I didn't want to think about it. But then he took off his shirt, in front of me. I almost died. What do you think you're doing? He said, you said to shower, I'm letting you help. I was so angry. Put it back on. He laughed. What? Don't you like it? My face got hot, I said. Put your clothes back on. And, why did you drink so much? You can get hurt, you know? He was putting on his shirt, and didn't say anything. I sat down in front of him. And looked at him. He was looking at me. And then he was getting closer. Then, I hugged him. And then, I felt something weird in his pocket. What is this? I took it out of his pocket. It was a lipstick. I couldn't believe it. Where did this come from? Was this Sarah's? He looked like he was thinking. Oh yeah. My mom made it, it was for my wife. As soon as he said that, his ears went red. His face, so handsome, was showing a hint of awkwardness. I knew it was the truth. I don't know where I got the courage from, but I looked him in the eyes. Can you try it on me? He shook his head, saying no to me. He would never do that. But, he was my husband. Why was he acting like he always had with me? I got upset. I was sad on my wedding night, and I felt like crying. I stared at him with puppy dog eyes. Okay, I'll do it. As soon as he said that, I started to smile, my eyes were bright. He reached his right hand, and touched my chin. He opened the cap. And started to put the color on my lips. He was so close, I could only see myself in his eyes. Do I look good? He could hear me, and just nodded. If I wasn't drunk, I would have never thought that he looked so sweet. Jake, I don't believe you, kiss me. He didn't answer me. But the next second, he was kissing me all over my face. I was holding onto his shirt. I was remembering everything that I'd been through. And now he was here, and everything felt so real. He didn't like me. This was just a dream. Just like I thought. Nothing had happened last night, nothing had changed. The next morning, I saw Jake, and he was fine, he acted like nothing had happened. He was still so cool and calm. Before leaving, he looked at me. My grandpa and yours have talked about the wedding, it'll be next week. I was shocked. So soon? My grandpa is old, he's almost 90. Okay. I couldn't argue with that, so I said okay. I don't know if it was my imagination, but after I said that, I saw his mouth smile. But I didn't see it clearly, he left so fast. I had gotten his contact info that morning. As soon as I opened my phone, I saw a transfer for $1 million. I counted the zeros so many times, and then he sent a voice message. You're a girl, don't always go on the scooter, it's dangerous. Your grandpa gave you 50 grand. You can buy a new car, I think. His voice was soft. I'm going on a trip for a few days. If you need money, just ask. He said he was going away. But his voice never sounded so good. I didn't want to plan the wedding, I didn't care. The wedding was not because of love. It was just fake. For me, buying the car was more important. Time flew by and I had a car. The new Porsche was coming from overseas, and it would take 2 days to get to me. To get my car faster, I asked the manager to call me as soon as it came. He called me on the day of the wedding. After I sent all the guests to the hotel, I grabbed Jake and went to get my car. I had my license for years, but I was always taking the scooter. I was kind of nervous. I was holding the wheel very tightly. Jake smiled. "If you're too scared, I can drive." I said, "No, you know that you shouldn't tell the driver they are bad. Otherwise, you're going to see how bad I can be. You're so slow. I'm worried that you're gonna get us there after the party starts." Jake smiled, and I saw a hint of his mouth move. And then his phone rang. He looked at his phone, and looked like he had seen something bad. His face looked really worried. But he still answered the phone. I looked at the mirror, and saw the call was from Sarah. My heart went cold. I had heard she was going overseas again. What was she doing calling Jake now? Was she going to try to steal him? I was trying to drive, and was scared. My heart was beating so fast. Jake was quiet, and then he said, "Okay." He ended the call and looked at me. My mouth was dry and I couldn't speak. I asked, "Are you going to see her?" He didn't answer, but I knew. I asked, "Can you not go now?" He was quiet for a bit, then said, "Her plane is in 2 hours. I need to." "I understand. Go." I stopped him. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Jake was looking at me. He wanted to say something. But I lost it, and lost the wheel a little. And then, a huge truck was coming from the side. If that truck of metal fell on us, we would die. I grabbed the wheel, and tried to go away from the truck. But the truck was going so fast. There was no way I could get away from it. The only way was to hit the mountain, so the car could protect Jake. But he was yelling at me. "Don't. Stop. You can't do this. We can talk. Please go forward." Bang! I was losing my mind and I whispered, "Jake, it's been 10 years. I had loved him for 10 years. I tried so hard to keep every other girl away from him. I finally got what I wanted. But it tasted so bad. I wanted to be free and let you go." I could not say any more. I was in pain. It was dark and I felt so tired. I just wanted to go to sleep. I had a nightmare. I was sitting and watching Jake and Sarah's wedding. She was wearing my dress and smiled when Jake put the ring on her finger. Everyone was happy. But I was alone and sad. I wanted to cry. But I couldn't cry. My body felt so weird. And then I heard someone talking. "It's been a year, girl, when are you coming back?" A drop of water fell on my eyelashes. I could feel the water, but I could not open my eyes. I was starting to get my memories back. I was dead, right? Oh, I understand. I didn't die. I was in a coma. Jake was so rich that I got the best care. I had become a minimally conscious person. My senses were okay, but I couldn't move. I was feeling so hot. Especially my ears. It was so hot. I realized that next to me was my husband, Jake. Oh. Had he not gone to see Sarah, and had stayed to be with me? Maybe he felt bad. It looked like Jake was being good. My mind was spinning. I heard something else. And then, I was being hugged so tightly. Jake seemed to be asleep. He was dreaming. I don't know what had happened, but he was holding on to me so tightly. It felt so familiar. I remember now why I was alive. It was because of Jake. He had saved me. He had unbuckled and hugged me so I would live. His voice was rough, and he was shaking. "My wife, we'll always be together. You're not going anywhere." In the dream, Jake was traveling in time, going back to 10 years ago. He saw himself at 12, looking very serious, and telling the little girl that wanted to sit next to him no. She said he was the best, and she wanted to sit next to him, and be better than him. Jake didn't talk much, and he didn't want to be with people, especially strangers. When she heard no, her big and bright eyes turned sad. She walked back to her seat. Little Jake looked back, and saw she was crying. Her nose was red. He felt bad, and asked his teacher to let her sit behind him. He thought, that should be okay, right? And when he did, she smiled. He would turn around when they were working, and he would see her, smiling. Her smile was beautiful. He didn't realize it, but he was looking at her for 3 years. When it was time for middle school exams, her score went up. She went from the top 100 to the top 10. She got second place. Jake felt better. She would be with him in high school, right? And just like he thought. In high school, they were in the same class. And the seats were in order. And she was behind him. She was more brave now. She would ask him questions all the time. He would help her, but he was very confused. He was first and she was second, there was not a big difference. Why did she ask so many questions? But he never asked her. He wasn't one to start. High school. People started to date. Jake would hear things at night. A girl called Sarah liked him, and was asking his friends to give him stuff. He refused everything. But then they started talking, that he and Sarah liked each other. Jake didn't care, he didn't say anything. He knew he was doing the right thing. And if his girl asked, he'd tell her the truth. When it was time for college, he went to see what college she was applying to. They had the same first too. Jake was happy. But then he had to change his to be the same as hers. He didn't think too hard about it. He just wanted to be with her. Jake realized he had feelings for her at the club. When she said she didn't like him anymore, Jake was going crazy. He couldn't stop himself, he had to have her, he kissed her. He thought. One kiss, she could feel how he felt. But she was confused. She thought he liked Sarah, and was being mean to her. But she was gonna marry him anyway. So he kissed his wife. When he heard she had gotten a replacement for him, he was quiet. If she liked him, she should have said something. Was the replacement better than him? He talked to his grandpa, and talked to hers, to make everything okay. He went to see her, knowing that it was going to happen. He didn't want to act like someone else. He just had to have her. He knew that she had liked him for 10 years. That day, he got drunk. He wasn't too drunk. But when he saw her eyes in the night, he started to act like he was very drunk. He didn't know if he had done anything bad. To avoid the situation, he left that night. But when he came back to get married, everything fell apart. Sarah's call was just to say happy wedding. She was going overseas and wanted to give him and his girl something. The painter was someone that Jake's girl liked, and he had agreed to go to get it. He had planned it, he could make it back in time for the party. But he didn't think that would cause her to lose her mind and crash the car. The blood was red, all over the road. Her face was hurt, with glass cutting her. It felt like he was the one being cut, all over his body. She was hurting, but smiling. Her mouth was still happy, but her eyes were dying. Jake's heart broke. He tried so hard to save her, and he hugged her. Before losing it, he thought, if there was another life, he would be the one chasing her. Jake was up. His heart was still hurting. He got up and looked at her. She was still sleeping. It was like a long dream. She was right there. He leaned over and kissed her forehead. He was so worried. But he didn't see that her left pinky finger moved. And then, Jake's eyes turned to me. And I knew that our love was going to be just like the movies.